Saturn is always an interesting topic, big occult topic. And we're told that Saturn is a circular planet, being that in some water going through it or something, with some rings around it, with some ice in it, all these childish stories, and that it's the second largest in the solar system after Jupiter, with radius about 9 times of Earth, 9.5, 10 times of Earth. And the Saturn's got about 80 different moons, 82 moons, largest one being Titan. Oh, the Titan part's correct. Visually through cameras and the internet, and a lot of CGI, fake photographs, but we do see this ring, of course. Ring does exist. And we're told that this massive ring system is just made out of ice. That's all, just ice, nothing else. And that there's countless small particles running around. They don't know what it is. They say it's not physical. They say it's just some energy of water, vapors, and all these things. And this entire thing is made out of water, ice, and water being the main component, blah, 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 blah. So all these stories that some clown just types up and they publish it and make it like official. These are partial truths. This is mis and disinformation, both combined together. This isn't real information. Saturn is a very hostile place, very powerful place. First and foremost, the misconception of Saturn is that's very popular, by the way, in these days, is that's explained in very often in many conspiracy videos, that Saturn is completely controlling and stealing souls and death traps and pushing humans to suicide. This is bullshit. It's not true. I've made enough trusted reptilian and draconian beings and counterparts to know what Saturn is and who lives on Saturn, there's no need to make videos about it. The last 2 videos on Saturn I made were taken down. So Moon is obviously a misunderstanding and a misinterpretation as well. We know it's hollow, it's a spy satellite, and so forth. So there's many different truths and myths, truths when it comes to Planet Saturn. But first and foremost, let's look at the rings. Rings of Saturn, thousands and thousands of them, of course, that we cannot see, cameras cannot see, but zooming in or zooming out, by the way, we can't see. But the space agencies, our agency, other agencies, these agencies, they know what's going on. They just obviously are not allowed, they don't have permissions to explain and post the real pictures. They understand, but majority of the rings around Saturn are made out of stone. Granite type of stone, granite type of material. And it's tiny, tiny particles. Some are broken off of the moon, surrounding the moons, are no longer there. And plenty of destroyed extraterrestrial ships, crafts, and structures too. Both manned and unmanned structures, absolutely. And also minerals, unknown to Earth, but minerals that are unknown to humans today, but smaller particles, so that were part of the former moons around it. And the internet says that Saturn has got about 80 or 82 moons or so, but it's actually quite much more, hundreds and hundreds of them. And as far as this Saturn matrix controlling and hypnotizing Earth and pushing humans to suicide, no, mental health pushes humans to suicide, or extreme disappointments in life, extreme shock in life. They can't handle life no more. Let's leave Saturn out of it. But the matrix of Saturn-Moon-Earth concept, again, is based on some truths, but a lot of misunderstanding, and in generations and generations and generations, this has been going on. Is there ancient technology there? Yes. That still exists, of course, yes. And it's the ancient technology today where alpha draconian races that are in charge of and are utilizing this technology for the vibration manipulation, as well as telecommunication and teleportation and portals for those reasons, transportation, logistics, trading, many different things, and testing of their own weapons we haven't heard of. And they do this, of course, with their own security-related protocols and monitoring, including notification-related reasons that certain other planets surrounding are notified. But this is a large operation that's completely out of our spectrum. And yeah, there's very specific centers of gravitational portions of each center of our own galaxy, certain areas. And when these vibrations occur, there are small mechanisms really that are placed technologically and can give signals through a very dynamic, very dense, but dynamic or very fluid system of galactic proportions. So this energy then is being teleported in a way. It's harvested, but it's teleported and then transported very quickly, effectively, efficiently. And then the vibrations then are being forced to shift out of the energy into another. So the draconian beings are in charge, or a race that's in charge of Saturn. There's one race in charge of Saturn. Do this very, very frequently. Not to like specifically push a human to suicide. It's not it. We're not center of the galaxy. There's plenty other races all around. They do this for an overall collective related reasons. And yeah, do our emotions get in the way? Of course they do. Humans are emotional creatures. They know humans are emotional creatures with no control. Too many emotions. Hence why the majority of the human race is extremely weak. Complex set of emotions. Tremendous amount of emotions. And one of the largest centers I was referring to, so the center points that these technologies are held within in the same gravitational realm, is coming from the moon system. But that's just one spot. Our own moon, the hollow moon, the spy satellite, yes. Covert, AI-based, ancient satellite carved out of a dead planet that the draconian beings brought here. I've already done a video on the Saturn, I've done a video on the moon. So yes, is Earth specifically targeted? No, absolutely not. So this is the misconception. In general conclusion, I guess there's technology that's being used and Earth just gets in the way. That's all it is. No one's specifically targeting Earth because we're so important to 6.9 density races that dominate this galaxy. So when it comes to the videos, books, statements, presentations that Earth is controlled by Saturn, Moon is controlled, these are misrepresentations of the truth. It's partial truths, but misrepresentations. Yes, technologies are of course held within the very same gravitational realm as Earth, as Moon, but as far as the system, the Saturn system and the Saturn's ring system itself, for example, this is just one small, tiny little part of a larger matrix energy. As there are many, many, many different components to this, many secrets, many quite complicated and complex technologies being used. But due to our own human misunderstanding, because we have limited minds, also through confusion, inability to process truly highly technological concepts, particularly when it comes to military-related technologies that these beings, that these advanced races are using. Complex and convoluted nature of these galactic agreements, another problem. Of course we're not going to understand. And of course we're going to be misguided. So the Saturn's existence is not to spy on Earth. Saturn is way bigger than Earth. Saturn's existence is for its own purposes, not to spy on Earth. They have structures that don't look like anything that we have here, not even Burj Al Khalifa, nothing. Saturn-Moon Matrix system, this ancient story I'm aware of as it was explained to me by a reptilian. So this version of the story comes from originally actually where one ancient draconian race, these beings from one race, at that time they were just at the end of 6.9 density. So prior to them dealing with the 7th density aspect, here within this solar system collective, they tried to merge with Saturn. So they try to merge their overall collective consciousness with the consciousness of the planet. And Saturn declined. Because if that was to merge, then these beings would have greater majority of Saturn and the energy around Saturn, including Earth. So, as well as parts of the overall solar system. And because the Saturn's consciousness declined, these beings then said, okay, so what we're going to do is just occupy Saturn and live there permanently. And that's exactly what they did. So as of today, if we were to look at time, which doesn't exist in the celestial, galactic, cosmic, and interstellar aspect of things, yes, a very large, dominant, powerful, let's use the word malevolent, even though we can debate that, they're the ones running Saturn. Saturn itself is run by an Alpha Draconian Empire in a very physical way, meaning this group moved there a long time ago permanently, and they're not going anywhere. And they're not losing wars. And to this day, these draconian beings are there, and many of those humans from Earth days that we would use terminology to say Atlantis, or terminology we call and say Lomeria, or even Kon-Ki consciousness, one of the very, very first live, real organic humans on Earth. They were even able to perceive the energy on the Saturn and these draconian beings. So they knew. But it's just that these stories from Atlantis and Lemuria are not told today. That Atlantis ideology or Lemuria is completely suppressed. Completely suppressed. Just like Tartaria, just like the Atlanteans' surviving technology, hence all of the massive churches across Eastern Europe or Soviet Union, we can't even copy and redo it today. We don't know how it's done. So a lot of this technology that existed at that time is suppressed. Some's buried, yes, because of all the floods. Some is absolutely saved, retrieved, and hidden away. Very prized possession to certain secret societies and governments. So the first thing to understand this whole thing, I think we need to ignore the ridiculousness, the ridiculous lies that were told by space agencies about Saturn. Oh, look, we think there's some water. Really? We know you're lying. And the moons and the stars and all these things, all of these locations in our solar system and the galaxy are occupied already. Venus, Jupiter, oh God, Mercury, all of these places are occupied by beings, live, physical beings. Some insectoids, there's a lot of insectoids in the galaxy, tons of insectoids, including right here in the fourth density on Earth, along with Sasquatch, along with Earth reptilians. So all these surrounding planets that we're told that there's no life, that it's just water, these are radical and childish lies. And yes, sometimes we see these explorations and CGI footage, but none of this is real. Hence, humans aren't really respected in the high draconian societies. We're not respected in any way, nor are we battling some SSP wars with Sakaar. SSP fairy tales, that's mental illness stories made up by humans for humans. But when it comes to the Saturn and the Draconians, yeah, absolutely, they're run by the Draconian Empire, who does have a second race in charge, the Zeta Grays. And the Zeta Grays, most of our solar system really is filled with these Zetas. But when it comes to the Saturn, the Zeta Grays are also permanently stationed there. And more specifically, beings that have physical bases on Saturn's moons, as well as Saturn's rings, are those that were left to work these very specific bases and utilizing these technologies, also of the Zeta Gray background or of the Zeta Gray heritage. And again, they're connected to the Draconians not through the DNA lineage, but because of the partnership that they've created. And then utilizing and implementing and deploying the sub-races that are not seen as partners, but they're seen as workers / what we would say here, colleague at work. He's not my brother, he's not my cousin, he's not my mom or dad, he's a colleague at work. And this is how the Draconian beings and the Zeta beings are able to dominate and truly place in place or insert in place this entire worker segment, this tier of physical beings that work for them on Saturn. And by now, I mean, I've worked with Zeta Reticuli beings a few times, not a lot of times, a few times, one for a medical related reason, and one that's I had a very interesting, benevolent conversation with a Zeta soldier, a pilot of a ship who was stationed in Antarctica. And he was able to understand my perspective of curiosity, and he explained to me what is Antarctica, which I'll never do a video on or speak in public, but some secrets should be kept secrets. But when it comes to the Antarctica, yeah, no one knows shit about Antarctica, what I see on the internet. No remote viewers goes there, and no journalist gets a text message from her insiders. These are man-made fairy tale stories, leaked intel by my insider. Absolutely fraudulent claims and statements just to get those videos out and get the likes and subscribers. So when it comes to the Zeta Grays, yes, yeah, pretty big group is on Saturn. And I think Antarctica, in conclusion, to wrap that up, because this is not a video about Antarctica. Antarctica should be left alone from podcasts and conversations, and just leave that one alone. That's my advice for people. Yeah, what's there is there for a reason, and humans will never know. Some humans know, but most humans don't, and it's probably best, because humans, we can't handle too many things. Humans can't sleep alone at night because it's too dark. They can't go into the oceans. They have phobia of the oceans, or dentists are clowns, and many other phobias and stuff. So how would you handle the jarring information that's happening in the Antarctica? You wouldn't. So it's best that some things are left alone. But in relation to the Zetas, yeah, Zetas are following very strict orders by the Draconian Empire, the main bosses of this matrix energy, the bosses of this entire Earth realm, the bosses of Saturn and every other, like 90 or so % of the planets. The Draconians are in charge, Zeta just execute things. And this is the same Zeta group that I've talked to humans before that are paying back the debt from a long time ago when Draconians did them a very large favor. Race, survival favor. They're still paying it back. So in that aspect, in their own loyalty to Draconians, they says, we're just going to pay you back by not breaking the bonds and promises and the duty of us serving you and so forth and all these things. But the bonds and promises, I mean, when it comes to the galactic top, is that are mutually beneficial and respectful, so mutually agreed between any race, between any sentient beings, between even a human and them. I mean, I've met 39 Draconians from 9 different groups, including KALASK, including a demon Ga, and I had plenty of dealings with KALASK to understand that these beings don't F around. They're perfectionists, they're flawless experts, razor-sharp perfectionists. They're experts at what they do. They don't leave no rock unturned. They don't make mistakes or miscalculations. They don't believe in misunderstandings, and they don't believe in second chances. Their word is their bond, and they don't break their contract, but make sure you don't break your contract. So I understand Draconians from my own personal perspective, I would say, particularly when it comes to their contracts and bonds. It's nothing compared to what we have on Earth with lawyer agreements or attorney agreements, bonds and clause and mandates and laws. No. Draconians are a different breed. And I can see how the races around that area is surely, they have no choice. To survive, to live, they have no choice but to serve the big boss, and that's the Alpha Draconian Empire. So I can see definitely those races in their own, from their own perspective, is what choice do they have, really? Choice of saying no to the big boss, you'll be annihilated. So you're better off to pay your debt as promised, and hence why they're permanently on planet Saturn, doing the duties and these things that they were agreed upon. And this is the reason of the Zeta involvements with the Draconian beings on Saturn. I'm always asked about that very often. In relation to other races, the number is just over 150. So over 150 races are involved with Saturn, 2 main custodians, which we just talked about. And lastly, as far as the non-physical energies, because I'm just kind of going through all the questions I'm asked about Saturn. As far as the non-physical consciousness or non-physical consciousnesses or the collectives, yes, there's some high 7, early 8 density or so that are involved, but these are not incarnated beings. These are disincarnated or unincarnated, whatever the terminology in English is, that have to do with the Saturn's collective. And Saturn, of course, is saturated with many, many moons. But human internet, human revised educational system, and the manipulation of space agencies tell us that Saturn's got nothing there with like 80 moons, which is absolutely incorrect. So the structures on the rings is another important topic. They were created by a lot of these moons' destructions, moons' explosions. So what ended up happening was a lot of the particles of these remnants of these remaining parts were sort of used together in a physical way to create certain bases, and then the pillars for the bases. And the beings that are in charge of these particular bases are the sub-races that I was talking about earlier. And often what ends up happening with these beings, as I was explained, a lot of the non-incarnated consciousnesses that used to live in the Saturn area are still sort of lingering around energetically within these structures and these bases, because out of nostalgia, particularly the dark ring, the thinnest dark ring of that entire ring collective, that's pretty much the very center is in an electromagnetic component and ionized metallic structures that are all around, and they have been manually created, manually inserted, and manually placed there strategically to help enhance and boost the signals of the Saturn's technologies, as well as to integrate a great deal of energy from the Draconian consciousness overall. Not one Draconian being, the overall consciousness of this Draconian race with their own technologies. Why? Well, to shift the vibration frequency, and this is why the field of the entire solar system is sort of greatly altered in a human's perspective from planet Saturn. The effects and feeling of this effect is real. Humans say, oh, I feel affected by the Saturn's energy. Okay, it's true, it's real. Strong psychics, strong authentic psychics, do they feel it? Yes. Strong intuitive workers, intuitive people, they feel it too. But the Saturn is not implementing these technologies to just target Earth. This is the part where I disagree with. And when it comes to a lot of channeled messages, just so we can get that out of the way, that channeled message from Saturn, incorrect. The person either doesn't know who they're talking to, meaning AKA you're hijacked, or you're making it up. Now, absolutely impossible for any remote viewers to go there. Any teleportation, no channeled messages will ever come from Saturn. This is not true. And some humans who have the opportunity, the prestigious opportunity to work with the draconian beings, to have bonds, contracts, channeling agreements. Draconian beings require very strict channeling contracts, channeling agreements, very strict contracts and terms. And when it comes to these things, they most definitely, these humans are able to ask these questions, and they will be told the truth. They will not be denied. I was never denied the information when I asked my own reptilian counterparts. So the truth is there. It's just that the truth is sort of deep, a little too dark, too jarring to understand of what's happening on the Saturn, what's happening, the moons on the Saturn, or the rings on the Saturn, or just like what's happening on our moon. Most people today cannot comprehend that there are prison systems, human prison systems, just above Earth, very close by. They can't comprehend that information. So how can they possibly comprehend what's in Antarctica? The Saturn's eye, the Saturn's North Pole, South Pole, these things are true. Yes, and these are great avenues to understand occult, I think. Not to understand draconian beings. To understand occult, you should perfect knowing Saturn. Knowing, one of the things is that all major religions worship Saturn. This is true. The black cube, yes. But this occult wisdom, hidden truthful wisdom to uncover, well, it takes years and years and years of reading and research. Yes, with that comes knowledge of the secret societies, money, logos, religious lies, national holidays, what's Christmas, what's Easter. It's not what Christians think. Many other hidden things, such as the true origin of religion creation. Flags, icons, logos, United Nations to United States. Stars of flags to circles of the Audi brand, to the Olympic circles. Who was Constantine? It goes back to Canaanite language and Babylon and ancient Egypt and all these things. So one of the wisest teachers was actually Jordan Maxwell, but unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago. He exposed a lot of this stuff in his books, and I often recommend his books. In fact, I've done 3 videos on top book recommendations. They're on my YouTube channel. And people that do enjoy reading, reading is learning, reading is growing. I highly recommend those 3 videos. There's a lot of books there that I personally read, I personally own because I feature them in the video, including Jordan Maxwell, including other secret society authors and so forth, that kind of covered this subject. So in conclusion, Planet Saturn is run, managed, dominated, monitored very, very strictly by very tight hand grip by the Alpha Draconian Empire, just like they very tightly manage and hold and watch over Earth and the custodians below, which is the Earth reptilians, and everything else around and in our atmosphere, pretty much everything else in this galaxy.